Hello, Search here for the Backyard Driving Range. I have a question, came into customer service. And this one's from Fred from the United Kingdom. And Fred says, Dear Serge, I'm writing to say thank you for transforming my game. I stumbled upon your site and I am now an avid advocate of your approach. My playing partners now refer to me as Mr. Boring. He's got that in parentheses. Because I am always finding the fairway with my drive. I recommended your site to one of my playing partners and he is now also known as Mr. Boring. Both of our games have been transformed thanks to you. I have one small query and I would like your guidance on this. While my drive has vastly improved, my irons play are not as consistent as I have a tendency to hit the ground before the ball. In order to offset this, I've experimented with your not grounding my club at address. This has proven to be very effective as I am finding a sweet spot on a regular basis. Can you please explain why this is? And should I continue with this approach? I also think that your other followers may benefit from observations on this point. Once again, thank you very much. Regards, Fred from England, the United Kingdom. Okay, Fred. It is really great to start hitting the ball down the middle and on the green, right? And I mean, as you said, they're calling you Mr. Boring. I've had people call me that. And I guess now you can just you can play golf and just cruise another one right down the middle and say, ho-hum, right? And just play golf, ho-hum. And there's nothing better than that. And that's why I think the most important part of playing golf is fairways and greens. So, but the big key is why are you doing well with your driver and worse with your irons, which usually 99% of the time it's the other way around. The only thing I can see is that I think possibly what's happening, and especially when you bring up the point about, not grounding the club. Now, as I've always stated, if one tees the ball up quite high with a driver, and if you have the ball teed up pretty high with a driver, say for example, I'm gonna put this club on this rubber tee, and I wanted to hit it with this club. If I had my club on the ground, and what would happen? That means if I kept whatever angles I started here, that I set with my knee angles, my waist, my hip angles, my shoulder angle, my spine angle at address, and everything else, I would have to have an in-course correction of everything starting to stand up as I'm swinging my arms down. Everything would have to be coming up so that I could get my club back to this point. So that's why I say anytime, like with a driver, when my driver is up in the air considerably, I'm going to hover and start everything at the driver, at where the club head is. The ball is basically where I want the ball to hit the club in the center of the club. So I'll start it from that point, and therefore I'll be able to maintain all of that and come back to that position. You maintain your knee angles and your spine angles, you can hit the ball all day. I mean, I can still stand here with this club, close my eyes, and still hit the ball with my eyes closed. And honestly, Scout's on. I'm an Eagle Scout. I didn't open my eyes. But I think where the number one issue that I see where golfers start running into problems when they get down to the irons is that even with most woods, even playing fairway woods off the ground, most golfers are trying to sweep the club off the ground. Now I've had students who still try to pound a wood into the ground, but if they do, they're doing it at a lesser degree than what they do when they get an iron. And I can't tell you how many golfers I've heard tell me that they were taught to stand here and just pound that club into the ground. Why do you think? That's why most golfers don't want to ever hit balls on a mat like this, because they'll rip their elbows, their wrists and fingers and elbows, just rip them apart, pounding down on even on these nice soft mats. Because there's no give. That's not going to give. At least the earth, the grass and the ground would start to tear apart when you come down into it. And so, but that still puts a great degree of stress on the fingers, wrists, and elbows, and it can always go all the way up into the neck and the shoulders. So I think what probably happens, and I'd be probably guessing on and saying it's a very good guess that where you were sweeping your woods when you get into the irons, you started hitting down. And normally, and the reason why we have the rule number 4 in our 5 rules to playing peak developing a better swing and hitting better golf shots at peak performance is rule number 4 states we swing up to the tee finish. Because I think anybody, if you just get even to a good limited peak performance turn and just and come into the swing thought of hitting down on the ball, it always tends to move. Hitting down, your shoulders are going to almost instinctively always move forward, which now means, and start turning, which means you're moving forward, you're turning, the club and the arms, hands, and shoulders are going to start going very likely out to in, which will come down even steeper on the ball. And so we probably have a good chance that there's too much body movement. Again, many times when we're down here and the knees start moving, especially the forward knee coming in and down and hit down. So again, we want to do the same thing all the time. All the shots is to sweep is to have the feeling that when we're swinging up, we're nipping the club off the ground. We're pinching it. We're just skipping the club off the ground. That's why, to me, I think mats are great to practice on, because you can stand here all day. And even if you hit that just a little bit chubby behind the ball, as long as you weren't really pounded down, that club will skip and ricochet off, off the carpet into the ball. But here, it's really easy to really get the feeling of just nipping the ball off the ground, taking those very small divots. As I like to say, a good divot, even sometimes with a wedge off a good solid turf, would be no bigger than if you put an average size apple in the middle of the divot that you'd see nothing but grass all around it. That's how small the divot would be, because the club got in the ground and up. So I think the number one thing I would say to you, Fred, and anybody else with those problems of having these inconsistencies with hitting the ball, hovering is okay, but again, if you're hovering with a ball sitting on the ground, then that means you're gonna, as compared to the tee being up and the club on the ground, you got to come up. If you're hovering at address with an iron, you now have to go down, and again, down introduces the ground. And even though you're hitting the ball better, I think I always prefer to set my angles wherever it is and then just maintain them. And you find that you'll hit the ball much more consistently solid, straighter, and therefore shooting those lower scores. So I hope this helps you in that the whole thing again comes down to maintaining your angles. And I think I always like to have my club, so to speak, grounded or at address where the ball is, and where the ball is, where the ball is lined up in the center of the club. Set my angles and just maintain them, and that's how you start getting much more consistency throughout the entire swing to hit the ball again. As I said, more solid, straight, and shooting those low scores. That's it for the search today, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.